Welcome to Dark Horizon Creations. I'm Mike. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to take just a few moments of your time and talk to you about the Action Force line of products by Valaverse. And I want to share with you a recent experience to reiterate something that Bobby has previously shared in a YouTube video. And that is in regards to the temperature variance during transit which affected the action figures. To remedy this, he recommends that you take the action figure and either immerse them in really warm tap water or use a hair dryer on the figure for around 30 seconds in order to bring the figure back to room temperature to loosen up the joints so that it's safe to manipulate them. If you choose not to do that, you run the risk of breaking the joints or ball joints on the action figure. I've seen a few people on social media on some of the collector sites like Legions of Valaverse and I think some of the G.I. Joe Classified series sites where this has happened. Early this morning, I got up and went outside to do a photo shoot with some of my Action Force figures because it snowed here last night. And where I live in South Carolina, it hasn't snowed in the past 11 years. And we got around 5 inches of snow, and I have a old utility desk set up with some cinder blocks on it for dioramas with my toys. And it had snowed on it as well, so I began to prep it for the photo shoot. And the figures that I used were the Urban Combat Republic Guard as well as the Riot Warfare Trooper. So while I'm prepping the action figure, I took this M4 with the M203 grenade launcher and began to put it in his hands to properly position it so that he could use it. And this is the M4 that's included with the Urban Combat Gear Pack. And I'll demonstrate for you all what I was doing. So I just took his arm, bent it like this, pulled his fingers open to correctly position the rifle, and the stock was pressed against his arm like this. There was no real pressure against it. And I manipulated it to bring his support hand up to grab the grenade launcher. And when I did, this is what happened. It snapped. Now, I was outside for probably 10 or 12 minutes prior to doing that. And I've done that same thing before with these figures doing photo shoots, and I never had that happen. These are solid ABS plastic weapons. This is not the cheap soft crap that you get with G.I. Joe Classified or the Jazzware Halo figures or any other line. These aren't 3D printed. Solid ABS plastic. And it snapped as if it were brittle. What happened is the extreme cold temperature affected this. How do I know that? I was outside for a total of about 25 or 30 minutes maybe. And I had these action figures in different shooting positions, and you can go on my Instagram page and see some of the pictures I took. But essentially, you know, I just had them in different positions, shooting positions, something like this. Within the 30 minutes that I was outside, these figures were froze. I couldn't move the joints. That's exactly what happened to these toys on the container ship during transit. I didn't attempt to move them. I just put them back in the container, brought them inside, used a hair dryer on them for around 25-30 seconds, and the joints were instantly back to room temperature where I could safely manipulate them. Please understand, these are collectible grade action figures, okay? These figures are intended for adult collectors, even though, you know, there may be some kids that have them. And they have well over 30 points of articulation on these action figures. They are extremely nice. They're the nicest action figures that I have ever seen and certainly ever owned. And I really want to take care of them because I can't afford to replace them. Even if they were available, I couldn't replace them. I can't replace the gear pack. So it's really important to me that I take care of this stuff. So what I ended up doing was using the FN Scar out of the gear pack for this particular trooper, simply because it was gray, he's gray, and I had an optic on it. And I wanted it to look realistic. So with this particular toy, there's a possibility that I may be able to use Gorilla Glue and glue this back together, because the brake is clean, it seems like. And if I'm able to do that, then I'll be able to save it, and I hope I can, because like I said, I can't replace this. The reason I'm sharing this with all of you is because those of you that have encountered it, for the most part that I've seen, recognize this is something on the consumer side that we've done wrong. This isn't a defect with the product. So this isn't an issue from Valaverse. This isn't a quality control issue or anything of that nature. This is simply not doing the correct thing with the toys. You know, even if there were a quality control issue with these figures, and I think the one that has been identified is with these vests not being able to secure the little mushroom peg on it. The head of the mushroom, I think, is out of shape, and I ended up gluing this one on, and I've got a couple more that I just received from Valaverse that I'm going to end up having to glue those on as well, simply because of the design of the peg. And you know, that's something that they're going to remedy moving forward. So I wanted to take a few minutes and point this out to everyone, first and foremost, so you understand exactly what can happen, as well as how and why it happens, and how to prevent it. So if it's cold where you live, you know, or you're like me and you want to go out in the snow and play with the figures and take pictures of them, just be aware this is going to happen. You're going to encounter this if you aren't careful. The figures are going to freeze into whatever position you put them in, and without heating them on the spot or bringing them back inside and heating them to fix that, you run the risk of breaking a limb. If you buy these figures brand new in the box and they arrive and straight out of the box, you start trying to manipulate them without following the instructions, you run the risk of breaking the action figure. So I hope this helps you guys. If you have any questions, contact Valaverse at info@valaverse.com and ask them directly. Have a good one.